Toddling Along podcast. I'm your host, Emma Thomas, and joining me for a second helping, is the absolutely delightful Kate Codrington, who was kind enough to come talk to you all in December 2022. Just saying off air, time flies when you're having fun / very, very busy. So Kate is the author of Second Spring. She also is a podcast host. Hers is called Life an Inside Job. And she works one-to-one with groups of individuals going through the perimenopause transition. But she has kindly come back to talk to us all about her latest book, which is a beautiful thing. And sometimes I'm quite sad that I don't record video because then I could show you how beautiful it is. And I'm a sucker for a beautiful book. But it's called the Perimenopause Journal. I'm not going to tell you about it. I'm going to let Kate tell you about it. Welcome back to the podcast, Kate.
Oh, thank you, Emma. It's a delight to be here, and it's a particular delight this morning to be talking about the journal. This is the first, we're recording this in the summer, and it's sort of the first time that I actually get to take it into real life. So it's really delicious.
Wonderful.
It's a 52-week journal, undated, so you can start it whenever you like. That is essentially a container for you to focus on how you can be kinder to yourself.
And we all need that.
We all need it. It has some instruction and some education. So I think about my kindness in terms of seasons. And that helps to guide me what kind of self-care I need, or what kind of attitude I need towards myself. So if let me give you a lowdown. If I'm feeling either very, very powerful and
out there,
or very judgmental and self-judgmental and the critics are raging, that's likely to be autumn. Mm-hmm. That's a perimenopause season. I think probably listeners will recognise that. If I'm feeling very, very tired and fragile, that's more wintry. If I'm feeling a bit like a spring pixie and full of bright ideas, that's likely to be spring. And if I'm sort of stepping up onto feel like, wow, I'm feeling pretty hot this morning and my hair is doing day one hair, that's likely to be summer. And these seasons require different care. So you can already hear that in autumn and winter, I need to be more careful, kinder. I need to have more protein.
Slow down.
Slow down, rest more, less social contact, those sorts of things. And everybody has their own version of this. And in spring and summer, I have more bandwidth, more spoons, more beans for social stuff, for going out there, for getting stuff done. So this kind of to and fro swing is really permissive, and it allows me to take care of myself no matter what life is throwing at me.
And I think we're getting better, aren't we? Because we're talking about this kind of thing more, we're getting better at realising that we're not essentially robots who feel the same Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday ad nauseum. You know, we're cyclical beings, and yes, one day we might feel on top of the world and that we can absolutely go nail that presentation or do the thing, and the next day we might be feeling the complete opposite of that, and I think that's sort of because that's heightened around perimenopause that it's getting used to it's getting used to that dichotomy, isn't it? And realizing that it's not our fault, and we're not to beat ourselves up about the fact that sometimes I can absolutely do this and sometimes I can't.
And also we can forgive ourselves, and that there's purpose in this. We are encouraged. We have the expectation of ourselves that we're on it all the time. We both of us arrived this morning kind of going, oh, bloody hell, where's that?
The usual chaos. Yes, dear gentle listener. I know it all looks like it's very professional and seamless. The reality.
Yeah, we both have real lives, right? And then there's somehow this thing, oh, well, I'm not as organised as I'd like to be. But also, if we were super on it all the time, that means that we don't have time we're not making space to reflect, to assess how well is this going, to rest, and to be vulnerable. Our vulnerability is key to our well-being, because if we feel Teflon all the time, we're going to burn out, or if we pretend that we're Teflon all the time. So not only does this seasonal view help us to forgive ourselves and allow ourselves more kindness, but it's just bloody essential.
Yeah.
Because we've got stuff to do in the second half of our lives. We have, as older women, we have a really important role post-menopause. I should be talking about the journal. This is.
We will come back to that. We'll come back to the journal.
We have really important stuff to do. We have a whole load of important wisdom to deliver to the world.
And we're not talking about that bit enough, although I have some other fantastic guests who will be talking a little bit about that, or have been talking a bit about that. And I think there's a lot of focus right now on sort of the kind of the getting through the tough bit, right? The whatever that looks like for you, in sort of perimenopause, menopause transition. Not so much about this sort of, and then what on the other side.
Well, to my eye, the tough bit is refining what is showing us what isn't working. We're being refined in the process of perimenopause, however painful that is, to show us what's not working and where the difficulty is, and it gives us space to work out how we're going to move on.
And there's a really lovely parallel, actually. I was sort of reading Lisa Mosconi's book about our sort of brains rewiring ourselves. So she talks about those 3 Ps, sort of puberty, pregnancy, and perimenopause, 3 times when our brain is sort of pruning away all of the stuff that it doesn't need anymore. So there's that lovely parallel going on of that sort of in the sort of neurological sense, but also, you're talking about, what's going on for you in your life, and sort of figuring out what's not serving you, and having a kind of an edit and a rethink. And
and so the journal, so that's so I suppose what I would love people to take away with them is that there's purpose to this. It feels like hell often, but there's purpose here. And there's a purpose of refining for something really important happening post-menopause.
And actually, that must be really lovely. I mean, and I'm sure this is your intention, that you have, I don't think the intention is necessarily that you slavishly fill it in every day. Otherwise, you've failed. But being able to look back over the course of a year and sort of see that sort of cyclical change, and sort of look at that journey that you've been on. Journey. I'm sorry, it's a slightly overused word. And if someone can come up with a better one, then please do tell me. But just sort of being able to track that, because our memories generally, in terms of remembering that fine detail, are not great. So actually being able to look back and say, oh, okay, I've come a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. And what makes this a different kind of journal is that the focus is on, how did I look after myself today? How was I kind to myself today? So yes, there is space for symptoms and difficulties, but over a period of time, you start to refine your kindness so that the focus is completely different. And so when we look back and review, and there's a review process at the end of every 4 weeks, we look at, let me find the page.
So you've got that sort of accountability, haven't you, really? Because
what am I proud of achieving? What got in the way? What got in the way of caring for myself? What do I let go of? And crucially, what sort of intention do I make for the next month? So before we started recording, we were talking about this awful difficulty of how do we manage to live, earn enough money, if you have children, to manage the caring of the young people and the household, and how do we do that and earn a living and care for ourselves? And it's real world stuff. It's really, really hard. And that's why this journal and setting an intention every month is really helpful, because it's not this month I will not eat any cream buns and I'm tipping the wine down the sink. It's about making an intention to move more, or making an intention to come back to my body, or come back to what really matters, whatever that is for you. So that, of course, life will take us away, but through the daily process of, checking in with yourself, checking in with what season, we can hold that intention, and even when it doesn't look like anything is happening, what was the intention?
Yeah.
Somehow we hold that intention for ourselves, and that creates a kind of kindness around our lives, even when it's really busy.
So you talked about the sort of the self-care changing through the season. So you have sort of spelled that out in the beginning of the book in terms of, for each of those seasons, what does it look like? What does rest look like? These sort of lovely small pleasures that you sort of talk about. What are the particular challenges and the gifts that each of those seasons brings to us? And I think I love the fact that you've got that sort of the gifts in there as well, because there are positives, even though sometimes we might have to fight hard to see them. But yeah, I think having something that is kind of playing up those positives as well is helpful.
Yeah.
You've also,
Let's talk about the positives in perimenopause that might be available to us. And I'm going to preface this by saying they are much more available if we're not knackered.
as with many things.
So the first thing to do is to rest. If you're struggling, the first thing to do is, exactly as you said so astutely, is to slow down and rest. That might mean altering your pace. And the central gift in a perimenopause autumn is knowing your needs and being really clear about what your needs are. And in our 20s and 30s, we can override our needs. Somebody was saying to me yesterday, I'm not going to be a martyr in my relationship ever again. That was the central clarity of her perimenopause. And that's inconvenient if you're in a relationship where you are selling yourself short, where you are being a martyr, where you are taking care of all the domestics. But in terms of coming into an actualized place of power, deciding not to be a martyr is just so powerful. Inconvenient.
I was going to say, and for a lot of us, either we're not particularly good at articulating what we need, or we've spent so long not thinking about what we need because we're thinking about everyone else's needs that we don't actually know what they are. So actually taking the time to figure those out can be really.
We've been socialized to put ourselves last. It's not our fault that we can't that we struggle to say, I need you to, please can you.
And it's like a muscle, isn't it? You've kind of got to start flexing it and working it. So it's not necessarily going to come easily straight away.
Yeah, and again, writing it down quietly in your journal or saying it to yourself every day, every month, works that muscle so that we start to get a little bit braver about articulating that in the world.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the term manifestation, but I guess in a way it is that sort of, you are, in writing it down, you are making it real in some sense, and that sometimes is the first step to making it real.
Well, there's a whole manifestation makes it sound like it's sort of zingy magic, but there's a whole load of removing the shame, acknowledgement, forgiveness, acceptance that happens in writing it down and starting to articulate these things, and feeling that we have a right, and as much right as other people in our lives, to time for ourselves. I mean, this is very this is a bit, cis men don't seem to have a problem with taking time out. Most cis women in heterosexual relationships where there are children will, when they're going to take time out, if they are, we will organise food, ask permission, say what's happening, tell everybody.
I'm
Even if
laughing
you
because I
can.
literally, practically at gunpoint, had to be forced by my very lovely husband to go and have a couple of days away at the beginning of June, and yeah, really kind of resisted it. I'm like, I can't, I'm too busy. I'm like, no, you're going. If you don't book it, I will book it for you, and I will make you go. So yeah, everyone should have a Stephen in their life, but yeah, you're right. We will actively resist doing the thing that will make us feel better.
Yeah.
Sometimes feel like, yeah, the sort of the wheels will fall off, and they won't. No, it will all be
So
fine.
coming back to the gifts, perimenopause shows us like loud and clear. I've got big flappy hands.
I know, can't see. You have to
Big
imagine
shouty
it.
hands here. It tells us loud and clear that we need this time for ourselves, and it reminds us who we are. It shows us the gap between who we actually are and how we've sold ourselves short. And of course, that bloody hurts. We live in a patriarchal society where we are inevitably sell ourselves short.
And
Perimenopause is that repair time.
Yeah, and it's so important that we have this discussion, as well as, you know, all of the discussions around, you know, HRT, what that might or might not be doing for us, because the HRT isn't going to do this bit for us. This is the difficult bit that we have to do ourselves.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. It happens. This process of it's like in psychotherapy they talk about actualization, about coming into your whole self, about reclaiming lost parts, about accepting vulnerability and strength together. It's a big psychological process. It really is. And it takes time, and it requires dignity and protection, and it's going on whether you go to yoga or do strength class or take HRT or don't, or have, or whatever your life situation, whatever your health situation, this is going on anyway. You can't fudge it. You can't get out of it, unfortunately.
Yeah, you can't pay someone to do it for you. Sadly, outsource it. But
that gives me a whole idea, like a sort of wet nurse for perimenopause.
I mean, I guess back in the day they were prone to locking women away in asylums, weren't they? So maybe there is something about being sort of sending people off for the cure, for the, you know, I think my mum got sent to the seaside. She had tuberculosis or something. Just imagine us, you know, all the perimenopausal women being sent off to some form of Butlins where they'll just sort of cosset you and bring you herbal tea and yeah, teach you how to do your Kegel exercises properly, and after a year just release you back into the wild, having done, you know, all of the work on yourself.
That's a delicious idea. I spilt my tea.
Good. Anyway, okay, I'm just gonna go and trademark that idea. So in terms of who this book is for, does it kind of, is it sort of pitched at somebody at a particular point of perimenopause? Does it kind of matter? I know it's a year long journal potentially, but it doesn't. My guess is, and correct me if I'm wrong, it doesn't have to be something like, you know, you sort of, you wait for your period to stop and you're sort of filling this in your 12 months while you're waiting to figure out, oh, am I postmenopausal or not, or you can do it at any time.
You can start at any time. Yes, you're right. And actually, the structure is based on the structure I use in my journaling, the structure we use in our community. So it's appropriate for anyone at any time. I don't know any time of life when the prompt "How can I be kinder to myself?" is inappropriate. But I guess it does make a beautiful gift for a friend. So there's that. If you have a friend for a birthday or Christmas or whatever. But if you are interested, if you're curious about the deeper processes that are going on with you, it'll be useful. If you're interested in developing more kindness, more rest, if you're interested in change, if you're interested in going if a small part of you is interested in going with the change, then this will really serve you well. And I keep forgetting it also has a raft of yoga nidra meditations, so that you can download the audio and give yourself a 20-minute rest.
Yeah, so you've got little QR codes in here, which seems to be a great new addition to quite a few books recently, where you obviously you just sort of scan the QR code on the page and it'll take you straight to the
It's
that
cute, isn't
yoga
it?
nidra.
Yeah, it works really well, so that you can get that 20-minute rest. And there's also an intention setting meditation each month to help you process what's happened, think about your intention for the month as well. So there's a lot of, it's like a sort of soft lined nest for you to rest in, to touch down.
Lovely.
Haven.
You have got something about moon phases in here, which is not, I'm if people aren't inclined to track that kind of thing, presumably that's optional.
Some resistance. Tell me about that.
I don't know. I'm like moon phase. That's just like another job for me to figure out what it is. So well, I would probably ignore that. But all right. Well, tell me why it's important.
Well, I think that with central to the journal is this idea about finding your self-care and what works for you. So if moon phases aren't your thing, then frankly, stuff them.
Yeah.
Because
I'm sure plenty of people listening will be like, yes, absolutely, it's for me. But I guess for me, that would just be.
And having said that, a lot of people find when the moon is full, their sleep is terrible. And they're hypersensitive, and everything falls apart very commonly. So it's quite useful to know that about yourself.
Both my children were born at a full moon. I don't know does that say something about it? I know that's quite common.
If you talk to doulas and midwives, there are said to be more births around the full moon. Yeah. So it's another way of tracking. Oh, does my energy rise or dip here? How can I take care of myself? And yes, of course, it's entirely optional. But it's something that I find in my life, because I'm postmenopausal. I'm by about 7 years, that it creates really helpful rhythm for me. That I know and I've learned from tracking with looking at the moon and looking at how my energy is, that there are particular times in the moon cycle when I know I'm going to feel like I've been sandpapered. It's like I've been sandblasted, and anything else is any more than the bare minimum is absolutely unbearable in my life, and I know that I have to step back. At that point.
Interesting, because we spend so long being these cyclical beings. Yeah, it's I can imagine, I can see how it would be helpful to still have that rhythm going on.
It is,
in some way.
For you, you're menstruating, right?
So I'm on HRT, so I guess I'm sort of still, I still sort of have a bleed once a month. So
you have your own, you still have this inbuilt regular cycle. Post-menopause, we're kind of
free floating.
Anchor,
yeah.
Unless you find something that anchors you into that rhythm, and that might be a daily rhythm. It might be some other structure that you have in your life. It might be, if you're working in education, it might be the school terms or something like that. But for me, and for many people, having that rhythm of the moon is really helpful. And I set intentions like every new moon, and I follow them through, and I reflect on them at the new moon and look at what's happening and see if I can remember the damn thing. And then I come back to the end of the moon cycle, and I look again and see what's happening. And it just creates this beautiful rhythm in my life. And for people that are interested, and I will, let's talk in 5 years. Let's talk in 5 years when you're 5 years down the road, and menstruation isn't such a thing in your life. And I'll be interested to see if you are a bit more curious about moon phases by that point. But for people that are interested, and if you have very irregular periods, it can also create this kind of steadiness and rhythm, and this is where I am. Because typically in perimenopause, because it's transitional, because we're in between one way of being and another way of being, people typically feel all at sea, without anchor, lost in this, there's a lot of metaphor around storms and being drowning and being, feeling very lost. So any kind of grounding practice and anchoring into the world is really helpful.
Yeah. You mentioned the sort of the school seasons, and despite the fact that we're recording this in the just before the beginning of the school holidays, it will be out, I believe, in September. And I know some people, sort of start new things in January, but I get this sort of back to school kind of rush of energy. So I think this is quite well timed. So I think for a lot of people that, if they are, so this is out, journal is out on the 10th of September. I think that's right. So hopefully you'll be listening to this not long after this beautiful thing is out in the world. So yeah, maybe people want to use, if they have sort of similarly have that sort of back to school kind of, and yeah, it is autumn, isn't it? So I guess that all kind of aligns very nicely with sort of autumn being our sort of main season of perimenopause.
You forgot to say how beautiful it is.
I did say at the beginning, it is lovely.
Yeah, but I didn't. It's really, really beautiful. And I'm quite picky about these. I'm very picky about these things. It has beautiful illustrations. It's published by David and Charles, and they're renowned for their design.
Yeah,
it's hardback. It has good solid paper. You can scribble on it without bleed through.
The little bungee cord to keep
it
safe.
Cord for your important messages, and it's a really, really lovely thing. So
it would make a lovely present, actually. So so I mean, you wouldn't necessarily have to have read your book the second spring to be able to use this, but it would make a nice kind of combination for somebody.
Yes, it does. It gives you continued holding from the stuff that you discover in second spring, so that you can develop more kindness.
Well, thank you so much for coming to tell us all about your new baby. I'm excited to see that out in the world. Obviously, I will put links to both of the books in the show notes, and tell people where can they find you if they want to find out more about your work.
Yes, thank you, Emma, for that opportunity. You can find me at katecodrington.co.uk, and on that website there is a huge resource library of seasonal graphics of yoga nidra meditations, of practices, and different ways that you can just cherry pick to take out little breaks in your day. For free. There's a free resource library. So you
it is brilliant. And I do tell people, in fact, I might have even linked to you from my website.
Oh, bless.
But yes, so you go and have a delve around in there if you're not sure if the journal is for you.
Yeah, and then, it'll give you a good feeling for what I'm like when I'm not mucking about. When I'm not mucking about and swearing, which is not all the time, amazingly.
but that is why we love you. The sweary people have to stick together. Although I don't tend to swear very much on the podcast, but generally get it all out.
So it's in real life. .co.uk, and I'm on Instagram at Kate_Codrington.
Fantastic. Right. Well, if you're listening to this and thinking that sounds like a piece of me, it's the Perimenopause Journal. It's out on the 10th of September. So by the time you're listening to this, it will be out in the world. And yes, do go and get a copy, because it is a beautiful thing. And I think we all need that sort of daily, some structure that helps us with kind of that daily practice of just taking a bit of time for ourselves, because we are all living busy lives, and it can be a real struggle to look after ourselves. So yes, thank you for giving us this gift.
Thank you, Emma.
You've been listening to the Middling Along podcast. Do remember to subscribe to be notified when our next episode is live, and why not visit the blog at www.middlingalong.com to sign up to my newsletter as well. I do hope you enjoyed listening today. If you did, I'd be really grateful if you would consider leaving a short review, as that helps people find the podcast and helps get it noticed. Hope you can join us next time. Goodbye for now.